Welcome into the Talkin Tide podcast. Everybody, I'm Chase Goodbread, the sports columnist with the Tuscaloosa News, joined by Travis Reier. Lots to get to here on this Sunday nighter here on Talkin Tide, the first real Sunday nighter of the season. Here we are, 2024, Alabama off to a big start at 1-0 with a resounding win over the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Travis will touch on that. Offense, defense, like usual. We'll hit on a couple other SEC games on the back end of the show, like we do typically here. Always fun to bounce around the league. But first, 63 zip, Travis. Last time, dug this one out. Last time an Alabama coach debuted with a shutout win was Wallace Wade, 101 years ago for you.
You must have had your damn miner's cap on to go get that one.
Yeah.
You were over in the Walker County mines looking for that one. You know, that's a hell of a stat. Yeah. I mean, you knew it was going to be a historic night just in terms of who Kalen DeBoer was replacing. But yeah, in terms of how the actual football game played out, there were some things that the last time we spoke before this game, I don't think either one of us had on our bingo card, like Alabama throwing just 18 passes in the game. I think we both would have hammered that over, you know. If the man had told us, hey, I'm going to set the total passes for Alabama in the game at 18 and a half.
Yeah.
You know, we probably wouldn't be indoors right now.
What if the man had said they're going to rush for 330? You know, give me that. Are you kidding me? I mean, I wrote in the T News earlier in the week that I thought it was important for them to show some bully in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wrote was, like, it doesn't have to be 40 for 200, but 20 for 100. Yeah, that'd be a good sign. And here they let it rip for 330 for whatever it was, 334. The second half of the game, Travis, as things were as that Hilltopper defense was wearing down in the second half, you could see some big holes opening up. I mean, sometimes they were able to close with a safety, but a couple of those where you're like, man, if that one guy doesn't fill, it's off to the races.
Yeah, they had the 96-yard drive that was 2 plays, and both of them were Justice Haynes. Picked up 11 on first down and then goes 85. So you got the explosive plays for sure in the run game. I know there's still some Alabama fans out there maybe worried about, you know, in some close ball games, thinking about Georgia down the road and how sustainable will this run game be against a defense like that. You heard it from Kalen DeBoer, though, in the post game, too. He said, I'm not going to look a explosive play gift horse in the mouth.
Right.
You know, you take them as you can get them. You block them hoping to probably get 6-7 yards, but if they go 85, you're not going to apologize for that. But sure, I mean, there are still some things. We knew this. I mean, it's the season opener against an inferior opponent. Very impressive performance. Had mistakes, penalties, another shotgun snap issue. But it's going to take playing better people as you ramp up this schedule to really learn everything that you want to know about this team.
Yeah, you mentioned penalties briefly. They were on a pace for about 15 for a while. I mean, they racked up 6 penalties in the first 20 minutes of game clock, roughly. They finished with 7. So they kind of cleaned it up in the second half. I guess they only got 1 flag over the last 2.5 quarters, roughly. But yeah, out of the gate, a lot of laundry flying, Travis.
Yeah, there was. And maybe that's some nerves, some jitters, some things like that. But you're right. They did seem to clean that up as the game moved along. So that was a positive, I thought. Took the football away, man. You know, for all the talk about concerns on the back end, but we had talked about this too. One area you did feel good about this defense was right up the middle, and I think you saw that pretty much throughout the game. And that's another area where we're going to learn more as we go along in terms of perimeter defense. But Keon Sabb with the 2 takeaways, you know what you've got in Malachi Moore. But, you know, a good job on the back end of limiting explosive plays, both against the run and the pass. I mean, you know, Western Kentucky, we know this offense traditionally is very productive. And we talked about this on the preview show.
Yeah.
You know, if you held Western Kentucky to 14 points in this opener, I don't know many Alabama people or fans that wouldn't have taken that. You
Right.
get a shutout. And look, I'm not saying TJ Finley is, Dan Marino or the second coming of, that type of quarterback, but you got to give the defense its props. It did what it was sort of billed to be able to do. It took the football away. It got numbers to the football, gave up that 21 play drive in the second quarter, but at the end of the day, got the stop down deep. So, hey, first time out for Kane Womack's group. I think you give them a solid grade there.
No doubt. I mean, I don't have the scores in front of me, but when we've seen Saban's teams run into Western Kentucky every once in a while, seems like a lot of times they get to the half at least somewhat competitive on the scoreboard, and maybe you don't break them until the third quarter. This was an early break right here. It was not pretty, and definitely Alabama able to pick its number. Defensively, you mentioned some of those defensive linemen. Looks like Kane Womack's real comfortable with the rotation. I didn't see a ton of drop off when subs came in, right? A lot of good number of snaps for Latham, Otis, Keenan, of course, Overton, Tim Smith, right down the line. Even saw a little bit of James Smith, and that group. Who knows if a dominator emerges out of that group? But they looked effective as a group. Again, given the competition, may not be the case in a month when you run into Georgia at home, et cetera. But I thought they looked pretty lively. I thought they looked athletic and what you're looking for up front.
Yeah, I think they'll match up fine with Georgia because they do have that mix of bulk. Now, conceptually, I think that's where it's going to get interesting because this is very much was at times the other night, a 3-3-5, because we saw Quay Rusal in kind of this hybrid role, moving him around there behind that three-man front. So that was interesting. You're right, though, substitution-wise, it was hard to keep up for the first 20, 25 minutes because, as you said, this felt scripted to get all these guys in. Jalen Mbakwe, Zay Mincy, Xavier Brown gets to start at the corner opposite Damani Jackson, but Bray Hubbard in there at safety. I was interested because you kind of anticipated, especially in the front seven, there being a comfort level with playing a lot of guys. I was more interested in terms of situationally, what they were going to look like on third and long, and hadn't really seen much of dime from Kane Womack in his previous stop. And we really didn't the other night either. I mean, it was still 5 defensive backs, but really changed out personnel. That first 3rd and 12 or so, you got Jahad Campbell on an edge. You've got Q Robinson on the other edge. Q ends up winning on the edge to get a sack. But then inside, like you said, James Smith's in there early as kind of a situational guy. Jamarian Latham goes inside. And then Justin Jefferson comes on at an inside linebacker to go along with Deontay Lawson. So those were kind of the things I was interested in because those aren't the things you're going to see in a spring game. You're not going to see those necessarily in an open practice or those type of settings. So that's kind of where I was glued. That was interesting. And again, it looks like they're pretty much just going to be nickel all the time.
Coaches always at the end of the season have what they call exit interviews where they go one-on-one for a few minutes with each guy in the office. They roll through and, they kind of try to get on the same page for the next year. This felt like an entry interview with Kane Womack. You got the feeling that he went it, like you said, scripted. He wanted to come out of this game with 25 guys to grade.
And Kane Womack, no disrespect to South Alabama, but you go from South Alabama and you walk into this personnel, you probably are feeling like, because at South Alabama, you win against teams like Western Kentucky week in and week out. And now he has the perspective of walking into this situation with these guys. He's thinking, hell yeah, I'll play 30. I feel like there's 20, 25 guys that we've got that I don't have much of a hesitation to go there with. Now we know in the coming weeks, that's going to narrow down. This isn't going to be the situation week in and week out, but boy, it's a nice luxury to have because again, you kind of figured going into the season, there was going to be ongoing competition at some different spots, like the corners, like that Husky position, Wolf, with Q Robinson, Quay Rousseau, Keanu Coote, Yanzi Pierre as the game moved along. So it's a healthy situation, I would say. And first game, inferior opponent, I thought they checked out. And again, Georgia, the old saying goes, you don't know how you look till you get your picture took. Well, that Olin Mills moment for this defense probably still down the road a little bit.
And
But
the
initially, and the offense. But initially, it was a feel-good sort of night at Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Jahad Campbell, an outstanding game at linebacker for Alabama as well, Travis. Between him and Sab, Q Robinson picked up an early sack that was big, helped kind of shut down that first WKU drive. But Campbell was everywhere. He was getting to the perimeter. He was physical when he needed to be. Looked as good as he looked at any point last year, I thought.
And that's an opponent where I expect Jahad Campbell to look good. Not that he can't do it against the Georgias and maybe more of the physicality that's coming with Wisconsin perhaps in a couple weeks. But boy, you want to play in space. You want to get him running and covering ground. That's right up Jahad Campbell's alley. So I thought all three of the inside linebackers showed some really good things. But you were able to play some younger guys as the game moved along there too. But this could be a big year for Jahad Campbell, especially if he's going to be used week in and week out, like it appears he's going to be, where third and long, he's able to step up there almost like Rashaan Evans in the past, where Rashaan was an early down, maybe inside guy, but then pass rush situations, you'd see him drop down there and come off the edge on occasion. So we talk about beneficiaries of change. And perhaps with this defense and the way they're going to play, that's going to be maybe more so Jahad Campbell.
Offensively, we'll turn back to that side of the ball really quickly so we don't miss touching on Ryan Williams, the freshman wide receiver, has a monster night, Travis. Not a lot of touches, didn't need a lot of touches to make a major impact. 2 touches, 2 touchdowns, 138 yards, one of them on the deep ball. And, of course, the second one was probably my favorite Milroe throw of the night when he was able to hit Williams between the numbers. And then he shook an ankle tackle and got into the end zone for his second touchdown. But sometimes I think Milroe doesn't like it, doesn't like to stick it in there in the middle of the field when he needs to. And that was one play where he hung in there and did it.
He did. That was a beautiful ball. There were 2 throws for Milroe. In real time, I would have said the corner that he hit Jeremy Bernard on a little bit later in the game.
Yep.
That was a beauty. But watching it back again, yeah, that crosser had zip on it, had some anticipation. He hung in there. Protection was also pretty good. We haven't even talked about Caden Proctor's situation yet. I know we're going to get to that. But that was a beautiful ball. And then for Ryan Williams, just a couple different things on that play, right? Fearless in the middle of the field. He was obviously aware of where he thought the safety was going to be coming from, because almost simultaneous to the catch, he's already making a move to split those 2 guys.
Right.
And then the physicality, because you look at him, you don't think it, but the play strength to kind of work his way through that tackle attempt and then hit the gas again at this age. I mean, this guy can't buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
And to do that, there's been some big time dudes, as we both know, just in the last 12, 15 years to roll through that program at that position.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about early impressions. I don't know if any of those guys maybe made that big of an impression in game 1. I guess you could go back to Julio 2008 because you opened with Clemson. That was such a huge game at the time in Atlanta. So the stage was bigger, but boy, Ryan Williams, you talk about as billed. Yeah, that was him Saturday night.
We talked in the previous podcast about what a difference it would make for Alabama if Williams could just be a serious vertical threat. And even if he's not a guy that gives you a ton of production in the middle of the field, et cetera, they got guys for that, right? More than one, matter of fact.
They got plenty of guys.
But and kind of a Jameson Williams role, and I don't say that to compare him to Jameson because there's no comparison. You can't compare to what that guy did in his 1 year at Alabama, one of the best seasons for a receiver you'll see. But I'm just talking about that role, right? Because you didn't see Jameson Williams running a lot of hard slants right into the teeth of linebackers and safeties, right? They had other guys for that. I don't know that you want Ryan Williams doing that, but when it comes to the go route, right, the double moves, that kind of stuff, he could fit that need like a glove.
I think they've got plenty of Z types, Jeremy Bernard, Kendrick Law, right, in terms of physical makeup. Not to say that Kendrick Law isn't lightning fast, because he is. I think Bernard has excellent speed. I'm talking about, though, a true X, a true outside guy. That's Ryan Williams. That's clearly the one guy they have that fits that role. And again, with Jalen Hale, if he's healthy, perhaps you've got two. But I think that underscores the need even more, because you went into this thing without Jalen Hale. So you really needed Ryan Williams to be that guy. And so far, so good.
Caden Proctor, we'll hit on that as well. Travis, you mentioned it briefly earlier in the podcast. Strange situation there, comes out for warm-ups in uniform, goes off the field pretty quickly. Some sort of a shoulder injury, a left shoulder injury, comes out with a sling underneath a T-shirt to watch the game. Elijah Pritchett goes the distance on the left side, which had to have been a surprise to him. It was all about that rotation with Formby on the right side. That was the plan. But the plan blew up, Travis, and that happens sometimes.
It does. And I know DeBoer, I believe you asked him about it after the game.
Yeah.
The sort of bind that puts a guy in, because the competition's been at right tackle for Elijah Pritchett. So that's been the focus, with he and Wilkin Formby, because Proctor had pretty much solidified himself on the left side. Now you get into pregame warmups, you lose your starter at left tackle. Elijah Pritchett's got to go over there. He has experience, obviously, there, and we know they cross-train guys. But once you're in game week mode, you're pretty much focusing on your specific spots. And it was rough early on, but I thought Elijah, as the game wore on, sort of got his legs under him a little bit, and it was better. Protection in general was fine. I thought Wilkin Formby did well for his first start, especially. Still, that interior is going to be your strength. Then you had the weird sequence where you lose two interior guys because their helmets come off. And now you got Gino Vandermark at center. You've got Olas Alinen at left guard and Elijah Pritchett at left tackle. That's not what you planned on.
No. No, not in the least. And Pritchett, it's interesting because during the game week, I got a minute with the OL coach, Chris Kapilovich. He told me during game week that he mentioned Pritchett as a guy who he felt okay about on both sides, not just the right side.
Right.
Well, then DeBoer post game more or less says, yeah, he's all right on the left side, but he hadn't played on the left side since the spring. Right. Yeah. He didn't say he got no reps on the left side in the fall, but he was pretty clear that the spring is where they gave him his look on the left side. So it sounds like he had to shake a good bit of rust off for that.
Yeah. And it's going to be a very nervous few days now. Obviously, expect to hear from Kalen DeBoer on Monday and get a more updated version of the health status of Caden Proctor. And it's twofolded, because obviously he's your starter at left tackle. Wilkin Formby, again, I thought did some really good things. And you felt okay about Pritchett if he needed to be your third guy. But if Proctor's out for an extended period of time, there'll be a lot of gnashing of teeth about Pritchett stepping in there. But who's your third tackle now? Right? That to me is the even bigger issue, because now you're a play away from Naquil Betrand or, Miles McVay.
Yeah.
Who's that going to be if you lose another tackle? It's too early in the season to be losing guys at positions like that.
Yeah, they showed who the third tackle is when Proctor's okay. Clearly Pritchett will be your swing man as
Yeah.
needed. But yeah, no doubt about it. If Proctor's not a go, then you're starting to draw some pretty deep well water at that offensive tackle position. Players of the week, Travis, from Kalen DeBoer, tumble out on Sunday. That's a new wrinkle, a little bit of a difference from Nick Saban. Who came with those?
There's not 37 of them.
Yeah. Format difference. Format difference alert. Kalen DeBoer.
Likes this way, the graphic person at Alabama. It's a lot easier graphic when you just have this many people.
Plug in,
Yeah, you got 14 or 17 of them. Yeah, it gets a little much.
Yeah, they got new people in that creative.
Oh, yeah. Got plenty of people in that now.
So, Campbell was a player of the week on defense. So was Keon Sabb. Offensively, Booker, Milroe, James Burnip with a special teams honor for the week. He punted extremely well, and good to see the coaching staff tip their caps with player of the weeks for scout team efforts, right? Offense, defense, and special teams as well.
Like that. Yeah.
But it looks like you said, Nick Saban would name as many or as few.
Yeah, that's true.
As he wanted
after
to.
a loss, there'd be like 2.5.
Yeah. But it looks like DeBoer's style is just to kind of plug in names, into specific categories. My question to you, Travis, do you think Kalen is salty enough to leave one blank after a loss, or is he not that guy? I don't think he is.
I don't think he's that guy. How about our guy, Unknown Damone, your guy right here in the show chat? Love that avatar, by the way. Look at that, Goodbread. That's your guy, Damone from Fast Times.
Not only is that my guy, but that photo, I believe, is from my favorite scene in the movie.
It's iconic.
It's
when he's giving the advice about Kashmir.
It's
Zeppelin.
He, if I remember
correctly, this boy Rat.
He's chiding young Rat in this scene, saying it's going to be, I could see it now, it's going to be just like last summer. You fell in love with that girl at the photo mat, you bought $40 worth of friggin' film, and you never even talked to her.
Exactly. Unknown Damone here. He says Cole Adams is going to break a few this year. I liked what I saw from Cole Adams, and I don't know, maybe he will hit the paint as a punt returner. I just like that for a young guy, he was comfortable in that role. He seemed very comfortable. He didn't make you feel any anxiety in sort of his decision making, or just cleanly catching punts. Caught 5 punts. I think he returned them for 42 yards, had a long of 12. Mm-hmm. By the way, Unknown Damone, we appreciate you. We also appreciate everybody tuning in live on a Sunday night, a holiday weekend. It is halftime of LSU USC 10-10 game out in Vegas. So appreciate all of you. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel as of yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. There's a notification bell right there too. If you hit that notification bell, you'll get alerted. You'll be alerted to all of the content as it drops here on the YouTube channel. And also, if you'd hit us with a thumbs up, a like, that would help us out tremendously as well. And also, Graham Nicholson, the 2023 Lou Groza Award winner, Chase. You liked his involvement because it was all extra points, no field goal attempts. And then Connor Talty getting the nod there on kickoff. So they kind of spread the wealth a little bit when it came to that type of stuff.
Spread the wealth. And it also, and this is something that I'm going to look at when I go back and review the game, which will be late tonight. It seemed that just at a glance, like DeBoer went with a pretty even mix of starters and backups for special teams. Is that kind of what you saw, or did you see heavier on one than the other?
No, and I think this too. I think something we probably didn't talk enough about when Bama was hitting the portal like they were, especially at positions like tight end and secondary and things like that, was that these are feeders into special teams. So it just wasn't a situation where you were kind of upgrading competition positionally. You were bolstering your coverage and return units off
Right.
the ball. So
Right.
I thought it was about what I would have expected. I guess, on the opening kickoff anyway, or some of the kickoffs, you had Keon Sabb, was a
Yep.
star of the game on defense, but he's out there covering kicks. And because of that, you had a Emmanuel Henderson having to wear 10 on his jersey and on his helmet. Thought that was John Fulton out there for a minute, maybe in that number 10.
That
But
announcement got old. Yeah.
yeah, did it.
Oh,
Yeah.
they in the press box. They every time that happens, they pipe up.
Oh, Emmanuel Henderson's in 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I thought it was a pretty clean night. James Burnett was what you want him to be as a veteran punter.
Yeah.
Averaged over 50 a punt. So, special teams off to a good start. I think he had one penalty maybe on Zay Mincy for a block in the back, but pretty clean night for special teams.
We've pretty kind of witnessing the slow death of the kickoff return, are we not?
It's interesting. I go on these soapbox rants about how we protect the pros, right? We protect the NFL guys by going to this dynamic kickoff now and things like that. But we don't worry about it with the college kids, do we? We still line them up and run them down there full speed. I know there's been some precautions taken, but yeah, it was like Western Kentucky wasn't really interested in returning.
It just seems like the percentage of touchbacks just goes up and up. At least that's how it looks that's how it feels anyway. I don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think Talty had a couple that were legit touchbacks, but he had a few that were returnable.
Had if I remember right, Western Kentucky even fair caught a kickoff in fair territory, did they not?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opening kickoff,
right,
or the one of the first kickoffs for Alabama is maybe the 5 or something.
Yeah,
the guy just fair catches it. So, that's an offensive-minded head coach over there too, Tyson Helton. I think these offensive guys, they're more like, nah, just give me the ball. Just give me the ball, and my offense has got it. We got it. They don't want to take any chances of maybe giving the ball up, or I don't know. But
that poor guy's like a referee. He's never going to get to do anything unless it's bad, right? I mean, his only action is going to be a muff. He's jogging off saying, "You can have this job. Put the freshman in there for that."
I'd love to be the Western Kentucky kickoff return guy, because I'm going to let her.
You're going to let her?
And in a game like last night, well, I'm not going to run it back.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to go out there and fair catch everything 7, 8, 9 times. So
get you a Duke Mayo's Bowl ring, or something.
Get you Bahamas Bowl trip. Yeah.
All right, Travis, before we wrap it up, a couple of looks around the SEC. Miami rips Florida. Rough opener for Billy Napier and the Gators. Notre Dame takes care of business against a Texas A&M team that was just abysmal offensively. And Georgia takes it out on Clemson. I come out of the gate with a big loser with my weekly pick. I had Clemson plus the points. That's okay. I've been 0-1 before and come off those ropes.
Ain't the first time you've been outgrown. I mean, that was Clemson's problem. They were outgrown by that Georgia team, man. Every year with Dabo, it's becoming more and more clear his way of doing it is leading to more and more mismatches for a team that used to have the mismatches on its side. And this sort of quarterback regression for Clemson is, to me, the tail of the tail too. I mean, you go from Deshaun Watson, you transition right into Trevor Lawrence. Then you feel like you've got the third guy in DJ Ungalele. Right. That doesn't happen. Then you feel like that's okay. Cade Klubnik, we talked about him last week. He'll pick it back. He looked regressed to me in that game. So, and that was something I thought with multiple quarterbacks, even around the SEC Saturday, you got the sense that, Graham Mertz, it's tough for him. That offensive line just got handled by Miami. Really, every position on the field. It was stunning how much better. It wasn't just Cam Ward, who was great for Miami behind center. It was every position. I mean, Florida was glaringly undermanned. And that just isn't going to work going into year 3. I know Billy Napier came with the moniker of program builder.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But even early in year 3, you better be showing some signs, right, of uptick. And that looked like regression from Florida. And then, Connor Wigman for Texas A&M. I know there's been a change there from
Speaking of
Jimbo.
regression,
Boy, that was, and I know he's coming off an injury, but who was that guy?
the line didn't look good either.
No,
But still, I mean, one of those picks, I didn't see both of his picks. He had 2. I saw one of the 2. The one I saw looked like a bad one. It wasn't like a tip ball or anything.
yeah.
Yeah, Texas A&M's offense was really abysmal against Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish get that done.
Notre Dame pretty much a playoff team now. I mean, when you look at Notre Dame's schedule, it's like
right.
if they can if they can go 11-1 and make the 12 team, they've got house money now with that win.
How squeaky is that Notre Dame wheel going to be? We're not going to be this year, but one day they're going to run the table and be the 5 seed. They're not going to.
Well, that's just the way it's, getting a league then. Getting a Big Ten. You can fix that real quick.
Yep.
You can fix that real quick, Rudy. David Dalrymple checking in here in the show chat did say, he says Peter Woods for Clemson did look good. Yes, the Thompson High product.
Yeah.
From Metro Birmingham. He did. He's looked good for a while now, and he looks like a first-round pick. We talked about this with Clemson. Now, I will say this. I think the defensive line hung in there. Mm-hmm. I thought they were actually winning early in that game, but it becomes demoralizing. I don't care how good you are defensively. When you can't get anything going offensively, like Clemson couldn't, it's just like Alabama's done to teams, what Georgia's doing now.
Right.
It's demoralizing. It's methodical, and it's like 6-0 or something, maybe at the half, and you're thinking, oh yeah. But it feels more like 17-0 than 6-0. And then ultimately the score gets to where it needs to be, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what ultimately happens. And that's what happened to Clemson on Saturday in Atlanta.
You know what that Riley OC reminded me of for Clemson? It looked like one of those awful Spavital offenses at A&M under someone where they were just, dying to get the ball to the perimeter, all the quick stuff to the perimeter. And it's like they're scared to put the ball in the middle of the field. Clemson made a couple of throws to the middle of the field early in that game. They didn't work out. I think they had a drop or two. It looked like they might have heard footsteps on one of them. And then it seemed like they just went straight to that perimeter stuff, rushing and passing. Not exclusively, but too much of it because you couldn't turn the corner on Georgia. And to me, I kept waiting for Clemson to figure out as a staff that you ain't turning the corner on Georgia.
No. Well, and Maffa, I thought Maffa for Clemson, even if he didn't run for 100 yards, which you don't expect that against the Georgia defense, throwing the ball, scrimmage yards for your running back. That's what Alabama did in the SEC championship game last year. I mean, You look at the rushing numbers for Alabama in that game, they don't blow you. I mean, it's 114 yards against Georgia. That's solid. But then there were big plays in the passing game, the touchdown to Jam on the rail route, things like that, where Alabama still really hurt Georgia with the backs. And if Maffa wasn't going to hurt Georgia, they don't have the guys right now. Clemson doesn't. Their offensive line's just pretty mid. I'll tell you who I want to talk about before we get out of here is the Vanderbilt Commodores. Yes. That win over Virginia Tech. I've been on the Diego Pavia train for a while, and that dude balled out in Nashville. Love him. He is a gamer. He doesn't have that Vandy stench on him. I mean, That's saying something because he's been at New Mexico State. But, they've had some good teams the last couple of years. And he quarterbacked New Mexico State. He'll win at Auburn last November. And that dude is a gamer. Give me 50 Diego Pavias, and I'll take the field against anybody.
Love it. Well, we're about to wrap it up, Travis. Before we do, I guess real quick, we'll touch on that Alabama USF game coming up, just to let our viewers and listeners know. We're going to preview a pretty good handful of Alabama games this year with a midweek kind of podcast, but we're not going to do it every single week. And this will be one where with USF, we'll go ahead and jump from this podcast straight to the recap podcast next Sunday night. So in lieu of a midweeker, Travis, just a couple quick thoughts on the hosting of the Bulls.
Yeah, and it's a USF team. I've talked about this. It can't technically qualify as a revenge game for Alabama because Alabama won the game
right
in Tampa last year. But again, that this is a team that feels like there's some demons maybe to exercise where the Bulls are concerned. And look, Byron Brown for USF, young quarterback, did some good things against Alabama last year down in Tampa. Naquan Wright is back at the running back position. It's a program headed very much in the right direction. Got a win over Bethune-Cookman on Saturday in the season opener down in Tampa, but did it in impressive fashion, 48-3. That was a bit of an issue even for for USF a year ago. Wasn't especially impressive going into that Alabama game. So, yeah, I think it's a step up from Western Kentucky. What about you? What are your early sort of impressions and expectations for Alabama? I thought Alabama, especially on offense, was about as basic as it could be against Western Kentucky. Do you think we'll see a little bit more conceptually, or you still play it kind of close to the vest knowing Wisconsin and Georgia are coming up?
Yeah, I think you'll see a little more, but you're definitely not going to see it all. This staff will hold something for Wisconsin, and it'll hold something on Georgia that it won't show against Wisconsin. So I think we'll see a progression on that. I really do. And as you noted, the veterans the players that were on the 2023 Alabama team that went to Tampa last year, they're not going to forget for sure that they know that
was
South
embarrassing.
Florida,
that was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing, and that there's going to be a lot of players that are going to want to show something. Keep in mind that was the game Milrose sat, right? So
he's got motivation this week.
No question. And you got some if you're Ty Simpson too, and you get in the game late in the game. So at any rate, looking forward to breaking down that Alabama South Florida game. It'll be next Sunday night. That's going to do it for us here on this edition of the Talkin Tide podcast. For Travis Reier, I'm Chase Goodbread, sports columnist with the Tuscaloosa News. We'll talk to you next weekend right here on Talkin Tide.